that resource. Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephanie Licata. I am the Senior Learning Strategist here at Cloverleaf. I'm very excited to be with you here today, and especially for this really interesting topic, helping teams navigate change with confidence, leveraging Cloverleaf and Strength Scope to build resilient teams. Also here is my co-producer, Jason Miller. Jason, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, I'm Jason. I wear many hats here at Cloverleaf. You've probably interacted with me one time or another through the support chat. That is me, a real human being. So yeah, thanks for taking some time to hang out with us today. And I'll be in the chat answering questions or in the Q&A, whatever you have. I'm happy to help.
Excellent. We are going to get started. But before we do, we just want to make a quick announcement about our fall cohort that has recently opened up our Train the Trainer program. We recently sent out a notice about this. I want to just let you know who it's for. It's for any trainers, facilitators, coaches, consultants, human resource business partners, or any leaders that want to understand how to more deeply train people how to use Cloverleaf. You can be an internal or an external provider. It's a hybrid course. It's made up of 4 90-minute live interactive training workshops where it's a meeting. It's not a webinar. We're all kind of on camera talking and discussing, and also 8 self-paced video modules. You are able to learn to lead individuals and teams to leverage Cloverleaf. So if you lead any kind of Cloverleaf trainings or you want to train people how to use Cloverleaf, it is not the same information that we sort of teach in these webinars. It is a different style of content and a different style of program. It is not the same information you get from our help center. It is Train the Trainer program. It is updated with new content, incorporating our new Discover functionality. We are running a promotion that is buy one, get one free, or buy 2, basically get 2 free. So basically, if you want to put someone in the program, you get another person from your organization at no cost. And all you have to do is when one person registers, you just email me and say, hey, we'd like to also bring Sue along. And this is her email address, and we'll enter that person into the program. So Jason is going to share the link to this program right now in the chat. But this is the information about the course. It does start Wednesday, October 1st. Again, all the live sessions are all recorded also. So if you miss one, you could also get the recording. The cost is $9.95, but again, you get a second person free. And again, all of these are recorded. If you can't make it, it's all able to be retrieved after. There's all information about what you'll learn. We also have some testimonials. We've put, at this point, probably over maybe almost 150 people have taken this program. We've updated it several times, probably more than that. I'm probably miscalculating, but very valuable for you to learn if you are, again, training or people or helping them learn how to use Cloverleaf. So just wanted to share that with you. Yes, we do try to keep it limited to a small group. So we do have a number of people registered already. So if you are interested, just, and also there's my email address. You can also let me know, and we can also, if you want to discuss more, we can discuss further. All right. Okay, Google Slides. Where do you want to move along now? It's not moving. Okay, here we go. All right, so first we want to know a little bit more about you and your role. So Jason, could you just launch that quick poll? Let us know a little bit more about your role. So what role best describes you? Are you a senior or C-suite talent or learning leader? Are you a director or a manager level talent or learning leader? Do you manage a team? Are you manager of a team? It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Are you an individual contributor? Are you a coach or a consultant? So let us know. So if you're a person that anybody that manages others, whether you're, no matter at what level, you could also identify yourself as manager of a team. Okay, good. All right, so we've got pretty good participation there. Jason, if you want to share that. Okay, it looks like we have a lot of individual contributors or managers next up there. We have some talent leaders and some coaches also with us. Excellent. So I know we also have some folks with us that are not currently Cloverleaf users. And so if you're not a Cloverleaf user, we're going to ask you today, if you have questions that you want to ask about the product, how we work, Jason is our Cloverleaf expert. We're going to ask you to use the Q&A function. So as we're going through and maybe you've never seen Cloverleaf before, or you want to ask a question, use the Q&A function as opposed to the chat, so that Jason could privately answer those questions for you and make sure that you get any product information that you need. If you have any other questions about what's the content that's being shared on the screen by our facilitators, use the chat, and myself, Mindy, who's our Senior Director of Customer Success, will also be in the chat and we'll be answering those questions. Jason also, I'm sure, will pop in. But if you're not a current Cloverleaf user and you have like general questions about what is this, how does this work, use the Q&A function and Jason will assist you there. All right, so I am super excited to introduce our amazing, talented, expert facilitators. First, I'm excited to introduce to you Scott Christie, the head of training and integration at StrengthScope. I know you're going to enjoy working with Scott today. And also my colleague and one of the most amazing humans on the planet, Peggy Mariner, senior applied coaching content consultant here at Cloverleaf. I am going to stop sharing because Peggy is going to now take over the slides and take it away. Peggy.
Right, my turn. Welcome, everyone. So happy to have you here with us today. We are going to be talking through change, which I'm excited about. And oh, Scott, I'm too far ahead.
This is what happens during change, right? It's
Yes,
difficult to kind of know where you're kind of starting from sometimes, right?
yes. There we go. We'll be talking through the strength scope agenda, what changes on the individual basis, team basis, and also tools to align and adapt. Take it away, Mr. Christie.
Thank you so much. So what we've got here is you can see our strength scope wheel. Now, strengths is really different from personality tests. It's a different layer of the human onion, as it were. And the way that we define strengths and the way that you apply and understand strengths from a strength scope perspective is that these are underlying qualities that energize you and that you're great at or have the potential to be great at. So this is about areas where you have natural talent that are the things that make you jump out of bed in the morning, that you really kind of get into flow when you're playing at it. Now, interestingly, we've got 24 different strengths that we measure. And what we see in our wheel there is that some areas will bring an individual more energy than others, or more motivation or drive if the word energy feels a little bit nebulous to you. These are the things that will get us really operating at our best and feeling super fulfilled. So it's not a personality test. It's not a competency test. It doesn't tell you how good you are at anything, but naturally where you're going to have higher levels of strength. Now, it says there that there's no labels and no categories. What this means is the way that we use strength scope is not to kind of put somebody in a box or to try and reduce them to a color, for example. We know there's much more than that. And actually, it's about the combination of strengths that we use in each individual context to understand how best to be able to serve ourselves and others by being able to play to that. So we kind of see this as a really individual thumbprint. As you see there, there's almost a stat there, 1 in 1.3 billion. What could that be? Well, actually what it is, you can see that there's 7 purple bars on the wheel there. Everyone has 7 significant strengths, so the highest rated strengths, the areas where they're going to get most energy. The likelihood of you having the same significant 7 strengths in the same ranking order as anyone else is 1 in 1.3 billion, or possibly 2 other people in the global workforce. So this shows that uniqueness, and we're only talking about 7 strengths out of these 24 as well. So this is how we see it. We recognize each individual have their authentic set of strengths. And obviously they have their own different contexts, backgrounds, and personality traits, which is great that when you're going onto Cloverleaf, you're getting a really rounded version and a really rounded picture about how you naturally tend to enjoy into your strengths. In terms of what StrengthScope is different from other strengths providers, strengths psychometrics, is that it's scientifically valid and reliable. So StrengthScope has British Psychological Society registered test status for validity and reliability. So what this means is, if you take StrengthScope, you're not going to see significant changes over time. It's not going to be affected by your mood. In terms of the order of the strengths, you'll probably see your significant 7 strengths broadly stay very similar right the way through your career. The great opportunity that this brings is it allows you to leverage them in different ways. You start to get agile with strengths because these aren't fixed traits. You can think about how you deal with them as you move up a ladder, a corporate ladder, and get more seniority when you're trying to pivot into careers, and indeed when you're dealing with change, whether that's something that you're an agent of change in or where you're feeling as though change is happening to you. And we'll be digging into that an awful lot today as well. The other aspect to be able to kind of talk about is our mission at StrengthScope. What we want to be able to do is reveal the unique strengths of people across the world, enabling them to bring their most authentic and inspired selves to work and to life every day. So when we talk about no labels, no categories, it's turn up as you. How do you work? How do you kind of leverage your energy most effectively to be able to achieve success and to thrive? So that's just a little bit about StrengthScope to kind of give us a little bit of context. Thanks, Peggy.
Yeah, thank you. I did have a question about your top 7 and seeing maybe a resorting of that. Would a career change impact that? I have my daughters have a teacher that left an engineering career to be a high school teacher. Would that see a change in your strengths?
Yeah, you might see a small change. So what we have is that you see the purple bars over my shoulder there, and you can see that some of the blue bars that sit alongside it are almost as long as them. We call them bubbling under strengths. And what tends to happen is when there is a career change or when perhaps there is progression to a senior level, we get the chance to play to strengths in a different way. Now, what you're not going to suddenly see is the smallest bars that might actually drain you rather than give you energy suddenly become something that massively motivates you. But you might see some tweaks around that significant 7, the longest blue bars. So your significant 7 might change very slightly, but our data shows that there's not significant change even through career change or significant changes within your life.
Great. I've wondered. So I love that. Moving on to change with what we're talking about in times of change, and you are activated in your amygdala, you often go into this fight, flight, or freeze situation. And as people that were without computers and just had campfires in past ages, this still plays out even in situations where we are safe and not being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. So when you activate your amygdala, it actually shuts down different parts of your brain. And that includes the prefrontal cortex, the anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC, and the hippocampus. And when those start to shut down, it begins to reduce your ability to engage in emotional control, in empathy, in recalling past lessons, staying open to connection of being able to give and receive trust with your teammates. So that can be your inability to knowing you want to stay open to feedback and you can't. Knowing you want to engage in constructive criticism or productive conflict and you can't. It feels personal. You go personal. And also recalling situations where you have had this happen before and you want to do it differently and you go back to do it the same way. So this is a human condition and it takes a lot of energy to quiet the survival voice when you are in a place of change. And it's also where the performance risks with your work can show up. Scott, did you have any other comments on that?
Yeah, well, you used the term performance risk there, Peggy. We don't use the term weaknesses when we're talking about strengths because we're looking at energy rather than competency. And performance risk is what we talk about. And it's really similar to in these times of change, whenever that part of the brain that recognizes change also recognizes pain. So there's that recognition that if we're not making conscious choices, if that decision-making part of our brain is dampened down or we're not accessing it, what happens from a strengths perspective is two things. First of all, our strengths may well go into overdrive because what we're looking for there is that kind of, it's almost like a dopamine hit. It's sort of like, this fulfills me. I enjoy doing this. I get energy from this. And if we do it unconsciously, sometimes what happens is the outcomes don't necessarily turn out as well. They often, we find that you get too much. It's kind of over indexing on a strength. So for example, I have creativity as a strength. Our definition of that is kind of really around being solutions focused and thinking outside the box, being innovative and full of ideas. If that goes into overdrive for me, I'll come up with lots of ideas, but how many of them are relevant? Are some of them a bit eccentric? And therefore, I'm not optimizing the way that I'm using the strength because I'm not thinking about how I'm using it. I'm just allowing it out. The second thing that happens often is we feel as though we have to go into those areas where we've got lower bars that don't necessarily energize us or drain us. So change is a big thing. We talk about the impact of stress, and that's one of the key triggers for people to be unconscious in their choices in the workplace. And that's often where we see these performance risks come up.
Yeah, I so appreciate that. Thank you. I wanted to talk through the Enneagram conflict approach. So this is a separate assessment on Cloverleaf from Strength Scope, but it has a specific model for change. And we experience conflict, stress, change, and even the anticipation of disappointment. So it does not have to actually be the occurrence of it. It can be preparing for the occurrence of it. That sends you into this dynamic. And I'm going to talk through it really quickly. There's 9 different personalities on Enneagram, and there are multiple triads. This one is about change. So reactives engage change, and they want you to understand that there is a problem, and they want everyone to understand how real the problem is. So they might show up with a lot of energy, and they are stating, and possibly if they feel unheard, restating how bad things are. Whereas positives, the glass is half full. They always want to be telling you about the opportunities, what's going well so far. This is where I can hang out, especially with my kids, and pointing out what's still going well. And competencies find both of those dynamics pretty dramatic. So they are stepping into, if there is a problem, I will solve it. And they are already engaging, opening up the spreadsheet, seeing what they can find. So if you have a day where you find out your budget gets cut, and positives are, well, the reactives are showing up. This is so bad. We've lost our budget. Positives are like, the project's half done. We're really smart people. We can still overcome and do hard things. And there could even seem to be conflict between them where somebody is stuck in the problem instead of being solutions focused. And the other person looks like they've got toxic positivity. And our competencies just withdrew from the conversation and tried to see what they could do with their budget planning. And that can happen in meetings. You may notice it when you see people repeating their statements again and again. And also, like, there's 2 different conversations happening between the reactives and the positives. They can't seem to get aligned there.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to talk through this with you, Scott. In real life, when that is playing out, how do people show up to make different choices? How can they understand how they should be showing up? And how is that impacted by strengths?
It's really interesting. I think generally, like you said, a lot of the time when people are kind of going through change, there is that sense of uncertainty. And quite often there's a sense that people don't feel as though they have agency, and so they don't have a decision. So they tend to kind of opt out, or it will be into that fight place as well. They'll kind of rail against the change or the perceived change that might be going on. And I think that part of that challenge then comes in terms of, are people actually making choices? So if you are able to make a choice, then that is a much more powerful way to be an agent of change. And being able to kind of do that and understand the best way to do that so you're not drained. Change can be hard, change can be quite sapping, regardless if you're playing to strengths or not. And from a positive psychology standpoint, which is what Strength Scope is based on, it's not as though everybody that does Strength Scope will sit in that kind of positive space. But you've got to understand, what is it that drives you to sit in that space? So that combination of personality, like Enneagram, and then strengths, which is kind of like a slightly deeper layer of the onion. What is it about the strengths that's driving that personality choice? So that's how you can start to understand how you show up. And you can start to think about, how can I make choices on that as well? I think
I
part
have
of
a
it.
question for you about that. Do you, knowing that you want to have like an ideal that you are aiming for, and you use that creativity example earlier, do you prepare, or do you have tells that are starting to indicate you are getting stressed out, or that change is surprising you and you're beginning to react instead of respond?
I think it does take a level of self-awareness. I mean, we're talking about energy, and it's very difficult sometimes for other people to see that. I know that I went through change when I first stepped into the role of head of training and integration. Like, nearly my entire team changed within 2, 3 months, and then I was hiring and onboarding people, and all this is during COVID as well. So we're all kind of sitting at home trying to kind of work out, how do we stay really human focused when we're kind of sitting on the edge of our spare bed, balancing our laptop on our knees, as we all were right at the very start of that. And for a long time, people couldn't see that I wasn't handling the pressure well, because the big impact, as I said, about change is that level of stress. And particularly, I think those that may be in a leadership role as well, you'll often feel as though you cannot stop. You must keep going. And what happened with me was, I have a strength in leading. And what that means is, I enjoy bringing people together, influencing them to really get behind the goals of the organization, and emotional control. So I get energized by being that kind of calm port in the storm. So to everybody else, that's what they saw. And they saw my creativity and everything looked good. When my camera went off, I was shaking. So
Mm.
you've got to be able to recognize, you know what, some of this might not be sustainable. You'll get some messages through your body, but you'll also see how you're then approaching tasks. If you're kind of going, I've done this for a long time, I enjoy doing this, this is playing to my strengths, and yet you're finding it harder, maybe you need to kind of have a little look, what's going on? For me, collaboration is a really key strength for me. I enjoy bringing people together, helping them overcome conflict. I enjoy being able to kind of use empathy as well to get other people's perspectives. But sitting alone in my room, when I was used to being in an office and around people, it didn't help me. I wasn't able to leverage those in the same way. So what we've got to then think about is, okay, if these aren't working so well for me, how do I get agile with them? How do I develop them in different ways, or see different ways to use them in different combinations? A bit like a mixing desk in a music studio. If you're a producer, you're trying to get the right sound. So you kind of, you play with those little sliders and kind of go, okay, well, we'll have a little bit more bass here. We've got to make sure the vocal is up, and then let's put the piano under, and then let's just take that out for this next part, because we want just to hear the voice. It's exactly the same with strengths. It's about making those intentional choices depending on the context that you find yourself in. And I think that that's where it's really, really powerful with Cloverleaf as well. We live in a hybrid world. I'm in our spare room here, now with a standing desk rather than sitting on the edge of the bed. But what that's meaning is, I'm making choices. I'm creating both the environment that will help me thrive, but also that is something that will help me really think about how I play to strengths, but also understanding myself and my team's personality choices as well. How do all of those things come together to think about, I have 20 minutes online, I'm not seeing them next to me in an office as it was. What might be the right way to approach some difficult conversations, particularly around change with them? And my team has just gone through an awful lot of change, and we've used Cloverleaf to be able to understand that a little bit more.
I have another question about that COVID moment. How long do you let stress persist, that time of change? Because was it one phone call or you let it carry on for a month, for 3 months? Like, when do you start interventions when
Well,
you are realizing, oh, I'm not so good?
yeah, it's a difficult one because stress is. There's a great TED talk by Kelly McGonigal. It's about making stress your friend. We all need a bit of stress to be able to operate at our best, right? But it's like an upside. It's a bell curve, and as soon as we start tipping over, it's really difficult to kind of come back up. And I think that part of the challenge is when you start to feel and sense and see that you're not operating at your best. That's the point that I learned you have to step back because I didn't. And I ended up having to take a week off and then have a complete digital detox, go away by myself into the countryside to just be able to recharge because my brain had just kind of fizzed out. Um, so whenever you're recognizing some of that, two things I would do is check in. How am I playing to my strengths? How am I operating? What are the things that I'm focusing on? Am I balancing out how I'm managing my day, manage my energy as well as my time? And then also talk to people.
Yeah.
Even if you have emotional control as a strength, if you're able to say, you know what, I'm finding this hard, and especially if you've got Cloverleaf there, hey, let's jump on Cloverleaf. What might be going on for you? Oh, I see. Right. I've had to be going out and doing an awful lot of networking and I'm an introvert. That's what's happening with me. Oh, and I've got really low relationship building as a strength. So actually, that's probably what's making me feel drained. So
Mhm.
how can I make different choices if I still have to do that as part of my role to allow me to be fulfilled? And also, what can I surround that with? How can I make sure that I'm getting that energy, getting that fulfillment so that I've got that balance? And that's the key word, right? It's all about balance.
Yeah. So I love that you said this could be an intervention can be as small as taking a look at what is energizing, what could be overextended and not getting utilized, or what low energy practices could be exhausting you. And also more radical interventions, a week, digital detox, recovery without having other people to support or take care of or provide for during your time away too. So like very intentional recovery. And I think those are big and small, very helpful. Did you have other things? I'll do my wheel as well.
No, but I think I'm really excited about this next part we're going to go into. We're going to go into Peggy's wheel, and we'll look at what might be supporting her, what might not be supporting her, particularly through the change situation as well, right?
Yeah. So this was very interesting for me. The purple bars are enthusiasm, compassion, developing others, relationship building, self-improvement, common sense. I feel like I have been able to use all 7 of these in creating coaching content, figuring out how we're going to take that personality science and scale it into the nudge coaching and help it to unleash other people to do their best work. It's been so exciting, very, very satisfying work. But I have had situations where the lower bars over here on the left with the circle of strategic mindedness, detail orientation, and critical thinking are exhausting for
Mm,
me. And I also have emotional control is very, very low. And I have worked on teams with engineers, and I look like a full cartoon character with them. Like they are very chill, super reserved, and I'm always like, "Hi, this is so exciting! I went out to the greatest dinner last night." And I show up with that same energy when I am frustrated and cannot figure out why we haven't prioritized something that our users are asking for. And it is uh, almost like my emotional expression can be predatory to their mental well-being, whether it's too excited with fun or it's too expressive with frustration. So that has been very interesting to me. And also, what I feel like is one of my greatest liabilities when I work on that team, too. So the strategic mindedness detail, as I'm figuring out all sorts of things at Cloverleaf, I have to leverage that. And it has been really exhausting. And when I think about in stress, especially knowing those other parts of my brain, oh, Nicole just said, um, how do we see our own wheel? We'll answer that at the end, Nicole. It should be on your dashboard. Uh, when I am quieting the parts of my brain that engage in decision making and problem solving, I have even less access to those. And it's so frustrating to me. I cannot figure out how to even figure out what the next step is. And I have ways that I can go to other people to do that. I'll look at my dashboard, and knowing that your thinking styles are on 16 types, I look across
Mhm.
the circle to see who's opposite of me. But it is a real life challenge that I deal with all the time. So Scott, how would you how would you talk through that?
Yeah, I think that one of the things is that um, change and the higher levels of stress often lead into our inherent negativity bias. You know, it goes back to that fight, flight, freeze, fawn kind of idea that it's kind of like, okay, well, it's going to be bad, and we'll naturally tend towards looking at what we don't have, and that then becomes a big thing because it also means that we're putting more energy into areas where we're going to get less back, but also we're not then using the strengths that we do have. And there's a little bit of a kind of almost like a gap or a vacuum that happens there. So it's kind of like, oh, I'm not allowed, or I don't feel as though this strength is going to really come up for me, or that this strength is going to be valuable for me. What happens then is you start questioning yourself, kind of going, how can I overcome this? And the key thing, first of all, when looking at this wheel is we're not talking about competency. And this is where sometimes when it's changed and people are looking at it and not remembering this is about energy, it's sort of like, oh, I'm not good at detail. You can be good at detail, but you probably wouldn't be able to sustain it for an extended period of time without really struggling. So it's then about going, okay, so how can I leverage my other strengths in order to be able to deliver this thinking space, this practical aspect that I need to be able to do. And the great thing that you have in your purple bars there, in your significant seven, is common sense. So you can get energized by thinking really practically and pragmatically. So you might want to kind of think about, okay, I want you to take me through step by step how this is going to work and how this is going to feel. You don't need the detail. You don't need to know all the code and everything like that. You just need to be able to understand and articulate and get feedback in a really kind of practical way. So being able to express that to someone that, for example, does have high detail orientation will allow them to kind of go, okay, well, maybe my detail isn't going to be the thing that's helping here. In fact, it might be felt as though it's in overdrive because it's not something that really energizes you, Peggy. So
Yeah.
I guess that when you're kind of thinking about that way of going,
And I
okay,
do
so how,
think that's very true, Scott. I think
mm,
that's very true, what you said about the common sense and even how I engage others with that.
and I think that that's where being able to lean into that relationship building and the developing others, for example, to be able to kind of go, who in my network can help me with this? If there is something where you have to kind of go into either the big picture, which is the strategic mindedness, or the minutiae, which is the detail orientation, who have I got that can help me in my network? Again, that will be great because you go, oh, great, I can call on, say it's Steph or Mindy, right? Let's get you guys in. Let's see how you can help me understand this because maybe there's just something that I'm not getting. But the other great thing is self improvement. So you will kind of go, okay, so how can I keep understanding how I can deal with this better? How can I think about different ways to do it? And as you said, how can I then use the rest of Cloverleaf to be able to kind of go, let me look through several different assessments that will help me try and find the exact thinking partner that can help me do this quickly because that's what happens during change. It's all about the pace. It's all about trying to solve those problems as quickly as possible,
Yeah.
but you'll also have the developing others to help people help you by being able to kind of go, this is where I'm at. This is what I need you to be able to learn is how to communicate with me. And then all together, we can get there far, far faster as well. So it's really interesting to see and think about how can we leverage other strengths in areas where we don't necessarily have it. And this for me is kind of like the easiest, quickest, best way to use Cloverleaf is to kind of go, okay, let's have a look at my team. What do we got? Oh, I need a bit of critical thinking. Let's have a look at that. We're around about 15 people, 13, 14, 15 people that have critical thinking as a strength. I've got people that I can leverage there. There's more people there with detail orientation and strategic mindedness to be able to help me. And this is the difference between the team wheel and the individual wheel. Team wheel shows, first of all, that scale through the center and the sides is the number of people who have that as a significant 7 strength. So it's not a 1 to 10 scale, it's the number of people. And then you don't necessarily have 7 significant strengths. From a team perspective, you have clear strengths. So it's really useful from a team dynamics point to be able to see where you have shared energy, but especially within Cloverleaf, you can then click into each strength and kind of go, okay, I need to know the people that have got critical thinking in their significant 7. Fantastic. Ooh, I wonder if anybody else also has detail orientation and strategic mindedness. So being able to leverage the people that are around you, being able to use the team wheel in particular to kind of find that those people that have a combination of strengths can really, really help you in terms of finding your own solutions. But then that's also really helpful for thinking about, okay, so when we're thinking about teams that will lead through change, who's got some stuff that can really, really help us here?
So when I am looking at my lower bars, knowing that I find that work, exercising that is more taxing, and I do have a total value on efficiency and maximizing your energy. So that
Right,
would very much bother me if I was having to spend too much time or too much energy on things that I'm like, this takes other people 5 seconds.
right.
I'm identifying the issue with the work I'm doing, and then I'm going to look at the team wheel and I'm saying who has this strength, and then I'm tapping them. So I gave an example on 16 types. I look across the wheel. So this I'm identifying which bar is being overused, and then I'm finding somebody strong in that and collabing with them.
Yeah, or you're finding that where you don't necessarily have a strength, and you're able to then see the people that do have that there. So they then have that complementary strength where you have a potential drainer. And then it's a case of, okay, I can help you with other stuff if you want to lean on some of my strengths, but I'm giving you work that you're going to enjoy, that you're probably going to get really excited about and do it, as you say, far quicker and far better than me.
Hmm.
It's a little bit like, sometimes you've got a pickle jar and it's really stuck and somebody comes along and pops it first time. That's how I feel about strengths. I see people who have strengths in areas where I don't, and I go, how do you do that so easy, so quickly? And actually, could you help me do
Yeah.
that?
I also wonder if you have project kickoffs and your subject matter expert is going to be asked to do something that they don't excel at.
Mm,
If being thoughtful about checking out the wheel as you're doing the project kickoff and saying, I've identified a partner for you that does excel at this kind of work because we need your expertise here.
hmm I think the other thing that you do is you ask them how they can use their strengths most effectively. So they
Mm,
might be a subject matter expert, and you think, oh, this probably needs a lot of detail. But when they
yeah.
go into the detail, what strengths do they use? So I have to do reporting at month end as part of the management team at Strength Scope. Not my favorite thing. I also am quite low in terms of that detail bar there as well. So what I do is I think about, well, what are the thing that drives me to do this? It's about developing others. I want to see how many people we've put through training. I want to get the feedback. That's that self-improvement going through there. And that drives me to kind of get into the stats and crunch them and try and work out new and interesting things to be able to say through that. So find the other strengths in how you do it, as well as finding a thinking partner to help you.
This is about how teams experience change, often through team formation. So, when you are forming, you may be at a standard performance rate, but as you move through storming, you try to reset as a team, you see a decrease in performance. This is also
Mm,
where the change is really taking effect, and you're starting to have conflict. And we called them performance risks earlier. So that's when these performance risks of change are showing up quite a bit. What are your tips on moving from team formation and storming quickly and productively through so that you can get to the high performance?
Yeah, for me, it's all about conversations and feedback, you know? So if you have something like Strength Scope or some of the other things, other assessments within Cloverleaf, you can say, here's what I can bring. Here's what I need. Here's the danger of what my performance risks of either a strength going into overdrive, where I'm expending too much energy, or a potential drainer. And then being able to have that understanding, you can think about, okay, so how do we then come together? How do we use our combined set of strengths in order to be able to get through this storming phase? Because it is that sense, informing, it's nice but uninformed. As soon as you start informing that and people go, oh, so actually I feel that strength that you're using isn't necessarily helping our relationship. So again, I have low persuasiveness. I had a boss who had lots of persuasiveness, and actually I felt bombarded by them previously. And so I needed to be able to give the feedback that, you know what, I feel as though you're using your persuasiveness a lot with me. That actually drains me. That's why I'm not necessarily as engaged as maybe you're expecting in some of the conversations that we're having. That's storming. And the more that you can have those conversations, the less time you're in there. You know, it's about being able to kind of get through that storming as quickly and effectively as possible to see what norming can look like. And norming is really about we understand each other, we have trust in each other, we have open dialogue and communication with each other to get to where we really want to go. And then you're off to performing.
Yeah, we have also had data where teams are showing in as few as 3 weeks and regular engagement with Cloverleaf, they are able to move through that storming because they are increasing empathy for each other, learning about them through the coaching content. And they are also able to identify what is valuable and how they can best collaborate. And
Yeah.
they'll say they feel more valued by their team, more known, and that their team is performing better in as few as 3 weeks.
And let's face it, this is change. This is a team going through change. This is a team developing their relationships with each other, changing the way that they're perhaps looking at processes and performance in order to be able to kind of get to where they want to go. So this gives them the opportunity to be agents of change rather than expecting the change to either kind of happen in some sort of miracle way, or indeed kind of recognizing that maybe they're kind of feeling as though we just have to wait for this to happen. Like you say, you can kind of almost storm by design by being really intentional about it and moving through there.
I just feel this so much for all the teams I work with and those I'm talking with. There's so much change right now. There's so much change, not just in organizations and shifting workforces, but also globally, and there's not anything that's not experiencing change. So I have a couple Discover tools that are queued up. And on our dashboard, we have Discover. This is a upper left hand. It's going to be the picture of a house. And it is like our AI search tool where you can ask it questions about you and somebody else. You can have a goal or a problem you're working through and different contexts that you want to include. I have included 8 sentences to give it full context about the situations at work that I'm dealing with. And this is a simple one that you can ask about yourself. Everything is changing around me, and I'm not sure if I have the skills to keep up. So this was actually pulled from our product manager that's running this, and it's a common theme that is being searched in Cloverleaf now. So I got a response. It has a picture of the people that are involved, the different traits that were included in this response. And if you hover over these in the app, you even get to see which person has that trait. And it says you tend to respond by jumping in and acting fast. Totally true. This lets you keep moving projects, moving even when things are uncertain, but when everything shifts at once, it's likely, you likely find it harder to see if you fit in or if your skills are valued. And I think that is also very true. I don't understand what the new terrain is, and I need help anchoring. I often compare myself with those I admire, which can make me question my own strengths. Pressure to show real progress and concerns of letting others down can raise self-doubt, especially if your contributions aren't seen or recognized. So if I got this, I would start paying attention to where I might be vulnerable. I wouldn't have expected the comparison to show up, but that is something that I would take to someone else and start talking to them about. So, Scott, you talked earlier about when you are feeling um, when you're feeling the first signs of stress, that talking to someone can be helpful. And I would use this response and I would engage probably my leader and then another coworker that I trusted to get feedback if they are observing this in me and if they have any recommendations. Are there any other questions you would ask yourself?
I think it's really interesting when you're looking at yourself in terms of change, and I think that kind of being able to be solutions focused. What can I do to be more change ready? What
Mhm.
can I do when there is significant people change? How am I likely to react? So again, kind of a little bit of that preparation when you know that there's something going on, to be able to kind of go, okay, so this is how I can show up really, really well and play to my strengths and my preferences so that there isn't that dip in performance, that I'm able to stay consistent and it may not suddenly grow because of the challenges or pivots or different demands on your time, but you can still kind of feel as though I'm here and I'm in control.
Yeah. There was another one about I actually went and talked to Grant about this. What might be the best way for me to ask? And I was specifically asking about Grant questions without seeming resistance because we're in a new process together. And it said probing for clarity without triggering resistance. And I have the pictures of us, which of our traits were included. And I mostly hung out on this third sentence. When questions come rapid fire or challenge his decisions, Grant may see it as doubt rather than teamwork. And I thought, oh my gosh, I do this all the time. That I fully wrap. And so that was my next question because on Dive Deeper, you can ask an additional
Mm.
question or you can move to apply this and it gives you 3 action steps. How can I avoid being critical or peppering him with rapid fire questions? And I took the answer to that and I screenshotted it and sent it to Grant. And I was like, hey, I do this on every other phone call we have together. And so he was able to say, I'm okay with it. I know your questions are in good faith, but that was something that I was like, oh, I could be eroding trust in my interactions with him.
And you know what? Through change, clarity and trust are so, so important. If you don't know where you're going, if you don't have an understanding about where you fit in that journey, it becomes really, really tough. And so you have to trust your leaders. And so making proactive choices like you have by using the Discover to be able to say, hey, this is what I've found out. Um, Help me help you.
Yeah.
Is this something that's a challenge? If so, let's talk about how we make it better.
Yeah. So here was another one where you can actually include the stakeholders and leaders, and it includes all of the folks, and you can dive deeper into the questions that are most valuable to you as well. I did want to offer that there's a way to handle your Enneagram. When you catch yourself in meetings where you are on the downward spiral of problem, opportunity, and solution, and you're not united in that, you can just stop and agree on what the problem is. If you can say, I understand you're worried we won't hit our deadline with our quality standards because we're on our budget just got cut. What is the single focus that we want to have in this meeting? And then talk through the opportunities there. It allows the reactives and positives to get aligned. If you do it efficiently, competencies will totally hang out for that. And then you can all solve together. So these are simple questions, but they can change the course of your meeting if you get really committed to this as a practice and you can stop some of the chaos that can carry on. So, Scott, you just had some wisdom that you shared earlier this week, and I would love for you to share for folks that may or may not have Cloverleaf at their fingertips when they are in a meeting and change is happening.
Yeah, I think that, and I'll make this really quick because keeping it simple is kind of like the biggest thing you can do through change. So from the start, if you're going through change, if you're leading through change in particular, you've got to be really clear on the why and the what of change. Allow people to understand why the change is happening so that they have confidence in terms of this isn't just something that is outside of everybody's control, but also the what. What is it going to look like? Being really clear in terms of what we're aiming for here. And then it's about embedding that and having a really human connection to, again, as we said just before with Peggy, to build that trust, to build that connection and support each other through change. So starting off and just taking 5 minutes at the start of a weekly meeting to kind of check in, how are you going through this change? How are you managing this change? Give us a scale of 1 to 10, even just starting with that. And then being able to say, what have you got on this week? And what strength or combination of strengths are going to help you be at your best, really fulfill you and energize you to get through some of the challenges that are ahead? And what strengths might you need some help with? And that could be, you know what, I feel as though this strength is going into overdrive. So it'd be great to be able to think about how I manage that. Maybe there's someone who has a similar strength to me that I need to think differently about how I use it. So finding another partner where you've got similar strengths. But the most obvious one is where you're being pushed into or feel like you're being pushed into the lower bars. Being able to understand, is this something that maybe somebody else can help you with? Is this something you need a partner for? Is this something just to take off your desk because we need it done? If it doesn't fit your strengths, that's okay. We can maybe find something else that will really help you be at your best. So keeping it super simple and checking in with people on how they're using their strengths can really help navigate and feel in control of moving through that change.
Thank you. All right. We also have questions